the real ladies in Loudoun County. In our next episode of Real Talk, we have special guest Courtney, who is the owner of Integrative Healthcare For Women in downtown Leesburg. All right. Hi, everybody. We're here with Courtney. Courtney, how are you?
I'm doing great, Roxy. Thanks so much.
I'm so excited to have you tonight. Can you please tell our followers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Courtney Hasseman. I am a certified nurse midwife who works locally here in Loudoun County. What that means is that I am a nurse practitioner who specializes in OBGYN. And I have a medical practice here in downtown Leesburg. And of course, now I get to telehealth lots with women throughout Virginia. And I have a practice in women's healthcare. I just provide routine women's healthcare and really specialize in hormonal and menstrual health. And so it is my pleasure to really offer integrative medicine for women who are looking for personalized care, comprehensive care, especially care outside of the box a little bit. So women who are interested in learning about how things like nutrition and lifestyle can impact their hormones and impact their menstrual cycles.
How much can do all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of just routine annual well woman physical exams, GYN concerns, kind of a lot of the routine stuff. But I also do a lot of consultations for hormonal health and period problems and period health too, particularly women who might not just be interested in taking a birth control pill to fix their period problems. They're curious about learning of other options and other treatments to help balance hormones. Maybe they're curious about maybe bioidentical hormones or what else they might be able to try for perimenopause. So it really allows me to integrate the best of both traditional Western medicine, and then also blend that with my training in nutrition and integrative care too.
I'm so excited. So today's topic is periods.
Yes.
Period, right? And we have some questions that I'm looking for these answers myself, because I have a 15-year-old who's going through that already. So things change every month. So what is considered a normal period?
Right. And I think a lot of us might think the cycle that we have is normal, or everybody else has the cycle that we have. And sometimes when I talk with women about what is normal, it's kind of surprising. So a normal cycle, and I will say this is for women not taking hormonal contraception. And we will talk about that. We can talk about that in a little bit. So if you're taking pills or patches, or if you have a hormone IUD or other things for contraception, then your cycles will look a little bit different. But for women who are not on hormones, a normal cycle should be regular and predictable. It should come about every month. A 23, 24-day cycle would still be normal. Anything shorter than that would probably be a little concerning. I might want to investigate. And up to maybe 32, 33 days would also be considered normal. If your cycle is longer than that or irregular, then probably should warrant a little bit of a investigation too. When your period starts, it would be normal to have a couple days of fatigue, a couple days that you're noticing mood changes beforehand, but it should never feel debilitating or, prevent you from doing work or life. Yes, exactly. Right. If you're having a lot of depression before your cycle, or really bad fatigue or irritability, that's just not normal and really should be checked out. When your period starts, normal for you to maybe have a little bit of cramping or notice that your period has begun, but not normal to need medication. If your periods are so painful that you need to be taking Motrin or Tylenol or something like that, that's not normal. Okay. Cycles shouldn't be that painful.
So you shouldn't be taking Midol then?
Really, we shouldn't need medication at all. I mean, if you needed to nap or use a heating pad or be lazy for a day or two, that might be okay. But if you need medicine for all of your cycles, or if you need medicine for 2 days out of a cycle, that would be concerning. I mean, every now and again might be fine, but you shouldn't have to think that it's normal to need pain medication for your period.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you said that, because there's times when my youngest, like, I think my might, I'm like, for me, since I don't not too educated on it, and now that I'm learning more from you, it's good to know, because I have to keep an eye out and see how many times she's asking for it, which is not
Right.
often, but it's good to know that you shouldn't really be taking medicine to stop or
Right.
keep away from the pain.
Right. I mean, if you're noticing that every cycle is painful for her, she needs a lot of medicine, then that would worry me a little bit. You should probably get that checked out. And then I would say about 3 to 5 days of bleeding is about normal. If you're bleeding for more than a week, if you're bleeding heavily, right, if you're feeling really fatigued and tired because you're bleeding a lot, if you feel like you can't leave the house because you're bleeding heavily, you know, those things aren't normal either. So that definitely,
I find a lot of women say
out.
that when they have their periods, they're like, they're done. And I'm like, when I have it, you know, when I get mine, I'm like, it's a normal day for me. I'm still able to do my stuff.
Right.
Other women, they're like, they go through stuff, headaches, and they're like, they can't walk. And they're like, I'm going to lay down. I'm like, man, okay.
Right.
Like, one's different, but it's not really normal.
Right. Some of that doesn't sound normal. So you shouldn't expect that to be normal for your cycle. And it's worth looking into. You're right.
So what are signs of period problems?
Right. So, for example, like we were talking about, if somebody feels like they always need medicine for their cycles, that would be a warning flag for me. If somebody has really heavy bleeding, feels like they can't control their bleeding, or is bleeding for more than a week at a time, that would be concerning. Very irregular cycles, or maybe skipping a period, going a long time or a couple months without a cycle, not having any kind of predictability, that would be worrisome. Or bleeding too much, like, oh, I'm bleeding every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. That's not good. So those are some big warning signs.
But can stress do all that stuff?
It can. Stress is definitely a culprit.
Wow.
You know, we're probably not the first women to notice that maybe during this past year, we've had cycle changes too. So there's a number of things that will affect our periods, and stress can for sure be one of them. It's almost like a protective mechanism from our body. So under times of stress, our brain will actually turn off our ovaries, like in a way saying, you know, this is not a good time for you to be ovulating or potentially getting pregnant. So we're just not going to let that happen. And so under times of stress, sometimes women will feel like they skip a period, or will go longer between their cycles. You know, I felt like my cycle was late, or it ended up being several weeks late or something like that. And you begin seeing either no periods or irregular periods. And sometimes that actually can be from stress.
Wow, that's interesting, because I hear all the time, again, the stress. Oh, I'm stressed out. That's why I got my period early. Oh, I haven't gotten it because I'm stressed out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, right now at time, everyone's stressed out. So those cycles are going up, coming, who knows when.
Yeah, right. Our ovaries telling us like, enough is enough.
Yes. So what about using birth control pills to fix your period?
Yes. So, well, I will say that, you know, for women who
hormones and stuff like that.
Right. So for women who use pills and hormones for contraception, you know, that's one thing, right? We know that there's no perfect method of contraception, right? There are pros and cons and benefits and risks for everything. So if you have decided that using whatever hormonal method is best for contraception, then you go with it.
Okay.
But most women who actually use pills aren't using them for contraception. They're using them to deal with period problems. So the majority of women in our country who use pills and hormonal contraceptions are using them to help manage their menstrual headaches or their acne or their heavy periods or painful periods or other things like that.
Okay.
And what I would say to those women is that you might want to consider looking at other ways to help your cycles. What the pills are doing are really just shutting down your ovaries. They are using synthetic forms of estrogen and progesterone that really just shut down your ovaries and prevent ovulation and prevent regular periods altogether. They don't really balance your hormones or fix your problems. If at some point you stop the pill, likely those same period problems might come back. So while you can use those to kind of improve symptoms or hide symptoms a little bit, they're really not going to fix the problem. Gotcha. or balance your hormones for you. And if you want to do the work of actually healing your body and balancing your hormones and fixing your period, then it's much more nutrition, lifestyle, right? Exercise, all those other things. Wow. The pills aren't really doing that for you.
That makes a lot of sense. So I didn't even realize that there's food that can support your cycle. I had no idea. I was like, oh, like tell me everything. No, not eat what to eat.
Yeah. Well, I might even start by saying that certain foods will make your periods worse, right? They'll make painful periods worse or irregularity worse.
Never. 35 years old. I wouldn't think of that.
Yeah, big connection between our nutrition and our reproductive and our hormonal health. So, for example, something like sugar, which we all know that sugar is not good for us, but sugar can really be an inflammatory food. It can make period pain worse. Sugar can also, because it affects some of our brain hormones, it affects some of our adrenal and stress hormones, can also cause sometimes cycle irregularities as well. And so the first recommendation I would work on with somebody who wants to begin using nutrition to help their cycles is to cut out sugar drinks, refined sugar, sweets, all the sugar foods.
In general, general. Oh, so those ladies who say, oh, I can tell I'm getting my period because all I want to do is eat sweet. They're just making it worse then.
Well, they are. And what our body's trying to tell us, it's very normal to crave carbohydrates before our period is coming. Yep. And we're not going to talk about low carb diets or keto diets or things like that. No, that's like another podcast. No. But I will say that women of menstruating age do need carbohydrates. And so if we're craving carbohydrates before our cycle, it's not a bad thing to eat carbohydrates, right? Okay. If you need to be eating bananas and sweet potatoes and lentils, or you know what I mean? Okay. So then you need to be choosing good carbohydrates to feed your body when you're having carbohydrate cravings. But to feel like you're craving sugar and just eat sweets is just making it worse. Oh. Big connection between sugar and mood. And so if you suffer from PMS or irritability before your cycle begins for a few days or a week or so, that sugar just makes it all worse.
Like stay away.
Just stay away as best you can and choose good sources of carbohydrates like veggies, starchy vegetables, fruits, lentils, beans, things like that instead where you can.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I'm so glad that question was asked because I was like, I would never have thought about that ever.
Yep.
So go ahead, please.
Well, outside of the sugar recommendation, the second thing I would say is also really connected with mood is to do a good job of balancing your meals with protein and healthy fat. Often I see women who are just doing a lot of carbohydrate eating or sweet snacking or things like that, especially before their cycles start for that week or so before their period, really making sure that you're taking a little bit of time to make sure that you're getting protein, healthy fats, fruits, veggies at your meals to help balance your mood. So watching for that protein in good fats is really important.
I love that. That's so good to know. That you just kind of blew my mind a little bit. So definitely. So what are some supplements to help with a healthy cycle?
Yeah. So some of the most important nutrients that we need for our cycle, they're often really common deficiencies in women too. For sure, iron-rich foods, especially if you're bleeding or bleeding a lot. So focusing on things like red meats that are high in iron, things like lentils, nuts and seeds can be great sources of iron, dark green vegetables. So that's great, especially during bleeding or, while you're having kind of the week of your cycle or recovering from your cycle, making sure you're getting lots of good iron-rich foods. Zinc is another really important mineral for ovulation and healthy periods too. Also in nuts and seeds, pumpkin seeds have a lot of zinc, seafood, oysters have a lot of zinc. So getting lots of sources there as well. A lot of the B vitamins, the B complex and B vitamins are also really important. They mostly come in veggies, I would say, too, a vegetable variety.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. So what if someone's on the pill? Can they still improve? Can that still improve their periods?
Yeah. So for women who are using hormones for contraception, sometimes when we'll ask, well, what can I do? Are there still things that I can do to support my body? Of course there are. For sure, the same nutrition recommendations would apply, right? I mean, everybody's going to benefit from stable moods and, balanced blood sugar during the day, reducing sugar. So those are good recommendations for everybody. It's still important to be getting lots of, things like iron, zinc, B vitamins, magnesium in your diet too. All medications will usually sometimes cause us to lose particular vitamins and minerals, and some of the nutrients that birth control pills actually lose or help draw out of our body a little bit are some of those same nutrients that are important for healthy cycles, like a lot of the B vitamins.
Yeah.
And so taking just a good women's multivitamin would still be important if you're on birth control pill. And just know that if you are having, for example, mood swings or not feeling well or irregular bleeding or things like that, it's still important for you to check in with your women's health provider, because sometimes it might be good for you to switch to a different method or a different pill. We can readjust that as women need to also.
That's great. So these were some pretty interesting questions, and these questions were like a lot. I think a lot of ladies are going to be blown away, especially with the moms who have now younger girls who are starting to get their cycle. And I was a young mom, so I love to learn, especially because I have 2 daughters, and I need to know everything I could possibly. So can you tell our followers where they can find you on social media? You have LinkedIn. I know you have LinkedIn because I follow you everywhere.
Yeah. You can go to my website, which is courtneyhasseman.com, and there you can learn more about what I do and about my practice here in Leesburg. My Instagram and Facebook are also just Courtney Hasseman CNM, Certified Nurse Midwife. So you can find me there as well.
Yeah, we'll link all her information in the show notes so everyone can go ahead and find you. And I know it's going to be one episode out of 1,000 episodes we're going to do together, because you have so many topics that I think we need to cover in the group. I mean, we have a group of 34,000 women. We have to cover as much as possible so everyone can educate themselves. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for coming on today as a first episode of 2021, and I can't wait for everyone to hear this episode and get to know you, and I can't wait to have you again.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love talking about periods, so it's fun to do, and it was fun to meet with you and talk to.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much for being here, everybody. We'll put all the information in the show notes again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
All right, have a great day.